Alright, this is my new toy. It's the Yak54 EPP Hybrid. I just got this from FedEx. I ordered this from Hobbyking. And let's take a look at it. I'll do a little video showing the build along the way. Okay, I just want to compare this wing with the Aerobees Extra 330 wing. And as you can see, it's almost the same exact dimensions, same size. They have very similar airfoil shapes, but the Yak wing down here on the bottom is about 1/8 of an inch thicker than the Aerobees wing up above. And also you notice the core in here. The Aerobees has an EPS core. This doesn't have that, so you can use regular CA. It won't melt the core. Here you can see the wing ribbing in the aileron and in the wing itself instead of the EPS core. And underneath we have the tail components, the fuselage, the hardware, and the motor cowl. Fuselage looks really strong. It's got more plywood framing in it than the Aerobees, especially up here in the upper aft section here. You can see all of this framing, and the Aerobees lacks that on the upper surface of it. Different design, of course. And then inside you have your carbon fiber rods going full length on the fuselage here. Seems really nice and rigid. I really like the fact the motor box is much shorter, and from here to here, that should make for a much stronger motor box, so that any torque when you're doing aerobatics and everything is less likely to rip the motor box off the plane, which I have had happen on other planes. And just one more comparison here. This is the Extreme Flight Laser, and you'll see the wing has just about the exact same dimensions as the laser does. Maybe it's about 1/2 an inch to an inch longer, but what's more noticeable or interesting is the actual thickness. And here's the electronics I'm going to use on this. I've got a 14x7 prop for 3S, 12x6 for 4S, using the SunnySky motor, Gecko ESC. I really like these because you could adjust the voltage output going to your servos. And for servos, I've had pretty good luck with these little Coronas right here. And for the elevator, I'm going to use the Power HT. Puts out a little more torque, and it's pretty reliable. Step one is to install the landing gear, then the rudder servo, the elevator servo. Wing servos are installed next. And the ailerons, I prefer to use goop on the hinges rather than CA. Holds up pretty good. Next, the wings are installed onto the CF wing tube. This will give us a good reference point to get the tail assembly parallel to the wing. Next, the elevator is inserted into the slot in the fuselage, like this. It's a tight fit, but push it in like this. Then push it all the way in and rotate it. And now we're ready for our horizontal stabilizer. And now the horizontal stabilizer is installed and glued into the fuselage using goop. And you take measurements between the wing tip on the right side and the elevator on the right side, as well as on the left side, to make sure they're equal, so that the tail assembly is parallel to the wing in the front as well. While the glue is setting, we can install the winglets. And these are pretty nice because they're made from EPP instead of plastic. And then we glue on the elevator hinges and the rudder hinges using goop, which I prefer to CA. CA can sometimes break loose later on. It's kind of brittle and it doesn't really bond as well. Now we'll install the motor mount and the ESC, and I've drilled out these 4 holes here on the motor box in order to fit this tiny little bolt right here. And now we'll put the cowl on. It's kind of cool because it's magnetic. And temporarily install the prop just to make sure it clears the cowl. You can install the elevator horn using goop. And next is the tail wheel assembly. I had to drill that out just a little bit in order to get that pin in there. Also had to file that area right below the wheel in order to get it to spin freely and not rub in there. I'm using a lemon receiver, and I've got it connected up to all of the servos as well as the receiver, and it's bound up to the receiver as well. Now I'll connect the battery and then disconnect it to make sure all the servos are centered. Now I'll go ahead and disconnect it. Next thing I do is to remove each servo arm and reattach it so that it is exactly 90 degrees right here. Just try and get it as close to 90 degrees as you can, and then I use the sub trim after that in order to get it to exactly 90 degrees. And then I'll go ahead and adjust the the length of this right here so that the aileron is centered. And same thing for the rudder, get the arm as close to 90 degrees as possible. And the elevator, you'll notice it's not quite 90 degrees because the splines don't line up that way. So I'll use the sub-trim in order to adjust that to get it to exactly 90 degrees. So now I'm going to go ahead and adjust the sub-trim and get that at 90 degrees. So I just take this little wheel right here and keep going a little more. That looks about right. Okay, that's perfect. And the elevator is down just a little bit now after centering that servo. So I just need to take this screw right here and then I'll tighten that up right about there. That should be perfect. Now I'm checking the travel. It's full left rudder, full right rudder. That looks good. Now the ailerons. And now the elevator. Full up, full down, all the way to the stops. Okay, we'll check the gyro to make sure it corrects. It should counteract the movement. That's our aileron axis. Okay, now the elevator, now the rudder. I had a little block of EPP there for the receiver, and the receiver is glued right to the EPP. The three adjustments for the gyros, aileron, rudder, and elevator, are right there, and I like to adjust those to around 8:30, 9 o'clock position to start with, and then I can increase it later if I need. He is right there on either side of the wing, and I had to move the battery forward here in order to get it to balance out, but it's pretty close right now. And that's about where I want it. And this shows how the battery is secured on either end with the straps, and the battery connection itself is under the straps, so there's no way it can come loose. Okay, I think this thing is ready to maiden.